Hey guys, you found Colby on Cars, and today I'm going to be doing a video on this country coach Intrigue behind me. It is a 1995. I just recently purchased it. I'm going to talk to you about why this is the type of coach you should be buying instead of the newer diesel pushers. I'm also going to show you what it looks like inside. I'm going to talk to you about what I'm going to be doing myself to remodel it and renovate it to make it to where my wife and I are going to be willing to use it cross country. All right, well, let's do a tour of the inside. First thing I'm going to show you that I believe is unique to country coaches, and that's going to be the flush-mounted step that sits here on your entry. So instead of having the step that's underneath that swings out, it actually will motor its way out of the body there and progress into the two steps, which I really like about country coach. So anyway, we're going to go inside, and you can see we got the original hardwood floors. I'm going to go ahead and turn the step off so it doesn't close again. Close the door behind me, and you can take a look at country coach in its 90s kind of flair. So we have our passenger seat and our driver's seat. Let's take a look at the cockpit. And this is before the smart wheel, which personally I prefer. I've had other diesel pushers that have smart wheels, and they've had some malfunctioning problems. So of course, this is a little bit more simplistic. You got that original black and white backup monitor, the backup camera monitor, HWH, computerized leveling system that uses the airbags on the coach to level instead of the jacks. And then take a look at those gauges. They all kind of remind me of an old cigarette speedboat or something. We move around here, and you can see there's the controls for the automatic, the Allison 3000 transmission. You got the air brake there behind it, the parking brake. And moving back, kind of take a look at that dashboard. This is curious. The early country coaches here didn't have any cabinets in the upper area here. You have your controls there for the tanks and the generator. This is the front AC. And again, that lack of cabinets, you got vinyl. And then moving back, now I removed this cabinet door here because I'm experimenting with some different painting options. We're not going to keep the oak look. We're going to be doing some paint. But this used to have the tube TV in it. And, you know, I think they call it the head knocker in the RV industry. But you can see kind of where that is right above the driver's area. Also, just really quickly, you can see where I've added a wireless backup camera there to get me a little bit better than that black and white one that's in the dash there. But this is going to be coming out in my renovation. I don't need it, and I'm probably going to put a TV somewhere else, maybe on an elevator or something. But we've got the solid oak cabinets, and that's not going to be just the doors. It's also going to be the cabinets themselves. So this is not a veneer. This is an actual solid oak. And if you look at how they did the inside, they actually lined it with carpet. You have your adjustable shelves. Very well done. Very nicely made. And all the cabinets are that way. So we move back, and you can see we've got a solid surface, the Corian countertops, the sink inserts here, so you have more counter space. This is a 32-footer, which is part of why I bought it. I really wanted to have a short one, but it does suffer a bit in the kitchen area. There's not a bunch of area for prep and cooking and things like that. So it's nice to have these inserts. I am going to be taking this out. We're going to be doing something maybe like a butcher block or possibly a granite top, but I am going to reinstitute something like this because, again, with that lack of countertop, we're going to need it for cooking if we're going to be spending some time on this thing on the road. You've got no oven, so it comes with the microwave, the convection microwave, and that would be a Sharp carousel. I think that was a pretty nice unit back in the 90s. And you've got a Dometic, and that is going to be the standard RV fridge that goes either on propane or AC, 120 volt, 110, 120 volt. And take a look at the valances over the windows, guys. It's very 90s. Although I will say, for its time, this is pretty muted, not crazy, not a bunch of floral patterns and bunch of like 90s crazy like grandma's couch stuff. This is a little bit more I don't know, neutral, I would say, for the 90s. Same thing here. You got the window valances. And to kind of reinforce that, this is, I believe, the jackknife couch that came with this, and it's just one solid color, which I don't think I'm going to have to change. So that's nice. Again, no crazy grandma couch floral patterns as we move back. And again, all original hardwood floors. These are also going to be coming out, but good shape. Somebody took very good care of this this coach. And as we move back, you see it moves to tile. So you have your tile floor in the bathroom area. And here we got kind of a smaller shower, of course, but for the size of the motorhome, it's not bad. And then one of the things that gets you into higher end coaches is that head. That's a porcelain head, and still all the solid oak cabinetry. We've got the Corian sink that's all formed together. It's all one piece, which again I'll be tearing out. Also with those fluted mirrors, those things are absolutely dated. But coming back here. You see you've got the solid oak bed foundation, and then you've got the 90s valances here again over the windows, and you've got some cabinets above the bed here. I do have one out there because I'm starting to experiment with getting these mirrors off and painting those white. This is amusing because we've still got the original unmodified tube TV with the VCR flush mounted for the people here in the back bedroom. And if we open this cabinet, you can see you've got the switch box to go from antenna to VCR and all that stuff. I haven't tried this. It'd be pretty amusing if it worked. I actually did find a couple of VHS tapes that came in the RV. Maybe they left them on accident, not sure. All right, so you got a tour of the inside of my new motorhome, and now let's talk a little bit about why I believe buying an earlier diesel pusher Class A motorhome should be on your list around what maybe you should be considering buying instead of some of the newer offerings from, well, really a wide array of different brands. Country Coach is a product and or a company that's unfortunately no longer around. I believe they went away sometime in the 2009, 2010 range. But they are very well known for building very high-end coaches. And really from the beginning of when they started all the way to the end of production, Country Coach is a brand that in my opinion absolutely should be on your list, and really that goes for any year of production. One of the reasons that I chose the earlier version, the 1995, was I wanted to have the simplicity of the earlier stuff, the earlier mechanics. Specifically the engine, the Cummins engine that's in this coach is an 8.3 liter. It is a mechanical engine, so it doesn't have a whole bunch of ECUs and certainly no smog around it. It is attached and or part of the chassis, which is a Gillig. It's a Gillig bus chassis. Gillig was a chassis that was used on a lot of higher end coaches in the in I think the 80s and 90s. In I believe 1997, Gillig pulled out of the motorhome industry because they had such a high demand for buses and they couldn't keep up with the bus demand. And so Country Coach went to their own proprietary chassis called the Dynamax. But everything before 97, like I said, don't quote me on that, I'm pretty sure that's correct. The Gillig chassis was used. Another company that used the Gillig chassis in the 90s was Beaver, another very high-end, well-made coach that I would consider. However, back to the reason why I bought this one. This one's 32 feet long. Very, very difficult to find any higher end built coach in the 32-foot length, and you're not going to find that in Beaver, to my knowledge. I think that Country Coach was the only manufacturer of higher end Class A motorhomes that made the shorter length. Another reason that I wanted to get into an earlier coach was, believe it or not, I didn't want any slides, or some people call them pop-outs. The main reason for that was weight. Slides do add weight, but more so is when you cut holes in the side of a bus. Let's call this a bus. We are modifying the strength in the chassis that surrounds and kind of holds this together. And so when you have one solid piece, and the way that these are made, and I actually don't know this. I did some research, and I don't know if we can officially call the Gillig chassis country coaches and other Class A motorhomes built on the Gillig. I don't know if we can call them semi-monocoque, and that's somewhat of an elusive term anyway. But semi-monocoque had to do with the framing and the construction actually being more part of the frame rails and the lower chassis of the coach or the bus. Most newer motorhomes, certainly diesel pushers, are built on like a Spartan or like a Freightliner chassis, which are good chassis, but it's much more inexpensive for companies like Tiffin to buy a Freightliner donor chassis, and then they basically start putting their box on top of it. The semi-monocoque construction is a lot more involved and a lot more uniform as far as being one piece, which lends to something that lasts a long time. Looking at this coach as a 95, it is in extremely good shape. There's no body cracking, there's no drooping in the nose or the rear overhangs, and it just goes to the construction of kind of the old school design. So no slides is a big thing for me. I certainly wouldn't tell you to buy a coach that didn't have slides for sure. If you want slides, buy slides. Country Coach and Monaco and For Travel and Newell and a lot of the higher end coaches certainly build them well. They have the HWH slides and the upgraded, and I've owned coaches like that, and I didn't hate them, but I will say I'm enjoying the kind of the one piece and no holes in the body. There's some other advantages to no slides too. You've got a little bit better thermal sealing because you don't have holes. You don't have to worry about rubber and gaskets and things like that. So the interior is going to stay at temperature a little bit better with the nose slides as well. So next thing I would tell you is when you're looking at coaches, I personally will only buy a coach that has a one-piece fiberglass roof. Country coaches, to my knowledge, are all built that way, and that's a huge part of what we're talking about as far as longevity in a coach. The last thing you want in any motorhome, travel trailer, fifth wheel, anything is water penetration into the building itself, and that can get into of course rot and rust and mold and all kinds of things. When you get into a one-piece fiberglass roof, you're really kind of negating any way that water can get in. Now certainly these are things that aren't impossible. We still have penetrations in the roof. This motorhome's got the mobile satellite, it's got two ACs, it's got of course the refrigerator vent. You're not going to have zero chance of water penetration with a single piece roof, but you don't have the problem of where the front cap and the rear cap actually roll up on top of the roof surface, and they put some like a ceiling type stuff in there to keep the water out. You won't have that in a one piece, and so that's something you're going to find in a motorhome like this one in Country Coach. The other thing that will come along with a higher end coach is going to be wheels and tires. So one of the things that I look at when I am looking at coaches going down the road or shopping for one is the very first thing you can tell a quality built higher end coach is really quickly looking at the wheels and tires. So the upper end coaches will have a 22.5 inch, a lot of times they're Alcoa brand, but regular semi-truck wheels, and then they run the larger semi-truck tires. A very quick glance at some of the lower end pushers, you'll see that yes, they will often use the 22.5 inch aluminum wheel, but the tires are a lower profile, not semi-truck specification tire. So when you're looking at a higher end coach, you'll notice that's one of the things that comes up. And by the way, that does make things easier when you have to buy all 6 tires, or if you're looking at a longer coach, got a tag axle, and you're buying 8. When you're buying semi-truck tires, your choices are much wider because they're semi-truck tires. Semi-truck people go through lots of tires, so that helps with your shopping and potentially your pricing on tires. Moving along, one of the things that's, in my opinion, extremely important when buying a diesel pusher motorhome is the side radiator. And this is something I think is overlooked by a lot of people that aren't in the industry. I'm not in the RV industry, but I am in the automotive repair industry, and the side radiator is a pretty big deal. And you won't find a rear-mounted radiator on a high-end coach like Country Coach and some of the others that I've mentioned. The advantages to the side radiator are really working on them. Anybody that's going to service them, when you go to access the engine in any pusher, it's going to be under the bed, but a lot of the service components are from the rear, and you would, depending on the coach, some of them have the cargo door style that open. Most of them have the opening piece, like this one has a swing that comes up. But when it's a rear-mounted radiator, the radiator's in the way, and so you can't get to those components as well. And as far as I know, that means that somebody's working on the engine under the bed, which means you've got service people coming in through the coach and hopefully not getting it dirty, but working on the coach in your bedroom. And that can lend to more hours, more labor, and it can lend to just kind of dirty, greasy stuff inside of your motorhome. So that's a big deal to not have the radiator in the way of service. The other thing that's very advantageous about having a side radiator versus the rear radiator is when a motorhome and or big rectangular box goes down the road, it creates kind of a vortex of air that swirls up behind it, and that radiator's pulling in air from the back of the coach when it's rear mounted, and all of that dirt and grime and all the debris and everything gets sucked right into the radiator. So that's something that should be paid attention to with any rear mounted radiator, is making sure that stays clean and doesn't cause any problems with airflow down the road. When the radiator's on the side of the coach, it not only does it have a better entrance of fresh air, colder air getting into it, but it's not in that vortex of air and the aerodynamics behind the coach, so it stays much cleaner. Let's talk about engines. So a lot of diesel pushers, certainly as they get newer, and I believe this is probably more around emissions based, although don't quote me on that, but when you start getting into 2010 and newer coaches, you start getting into emissions. So even, yes, motorhomes had to start, motorhome manufacturers had to start complying to the emissions requirements around powering a larger coach like this. And many of them are using the 6.7 liter, the Dodge power plant, and it's a good engine. But in my opinion, not large enough to move something that weighs this much going down the road. Really, those were designed for like pickup trucks and like your 3/4 ton and 1 ton pickup trucks, and they put them in the chassis and they work. And the reason that I believe that happened was not only to keep costs down, but also that was an engine that had already gone through all of the emissions requirements. You've already got an active DEF system, diesel exhaust fluid. You've got all the catalytic converters and all of the other things that are associated with having a diesel engine legal to be sold in the United States. So the negatives to that are not as much power, not as much displacement, but of course you have all the other complexity that's involved in the different things that are associated with all those emissions components. When you get into the older coaches like this one, especially being a 95, you've got old school diesel. The 8.3 liter Cummins, of course, being one of the better diesel engine manufacturers out there. You're getting into a very simplistic engine and very easy to work on, easy to find parts. They use the 8.3 liter Cummins in many different applications: fire engines, street buses, industrial equipment, all kinds of things like that. It's been around for many, many years. It's nearly indestructible, and you can find just about anybody to work on it. Now, Caterpillar also made some good engines. I don't think that the Caterpillar was used in any of the country coaches. I'd certainly love to hear about it. If anybody knows, maybe throw that in the comments. I'm always looking to learn more about it, but Caterpillars are a great engine. Personally, I haven't found as many people that are willing to work on them as Cummins. I believe Cummins is a better way to go. But both good engines, and Caterpillar in the earlier categories are, I think, much better than some of the later additions that motorhomes used. So that's another good reason to look at a higher end coach like Country Coach, things like that. I'm pretty certain that any diesel pusher is going to be using the Allison transmission. This one has the Allison 3000. Allison makes an excellent transmission, and as far as I know, there's no reason to worry about an Allison in any of the different categories. So that's another really good reason to look at a coach like this one. All right, well, that pretty well wraps it up. I wanted to mention that if you're able to find a country coach and you're after the 32-footer, for my research, they made them until 2005, and anything after 97, you do get a Dynamax chassis, which I've shown a little bit around this video. One of the things I didn't touch on if you go with the Dynamax versus the Gillig is they go to an independent front suspension, which gives you a much better turning radius. Although I will tell you that this particular coach in the 32-foot length, even with the solid I-beam front axle from the bus, still turns actually really, really well. It's very maneuverable. Another advantage is some of the later, you can find some of the 32-foot later coaches. I saw a 2002 or 3, I think, that was advertised at an Oregon dealership, and it had the ISL Cummins in it, which is the 400 horsepower. It's the 8.9 liter versus the 8.3 liter. A little bit more complex, few extra problems with that engine, but still a really good engine. I actually had a Monaco that had that engine. I liked it a lot. So I hope this helps you, and I hope it encourages you to maybe look at some older coaches. And if you liked the video, I'd love a thumbs up. I'd really love a subscribe. I will tell you that I'm going to be doing a lot of my own renovation, as I mentioned earlier. And if you want to see me get after that, look for future videos. Thanks a lot, guys. Appreciate you watching. Have an awesome day.